Author, backtracking copywriting. Inan was an abandoned baby and grew up in an orphanage. At the age of 4, she was invited to the variety show Intern Parents as an amateur guest. The live broadcast room is full of people every day. It turns out that the actress is a life idiot, it turns out that she has been seeing a psychiatrist, it turns out that her marriage with her husband is not happy, it turns out that she is not a winner in life at all. Everyone is worried that the home of chicken feathers in this place will cause harm to the poor and young hearts again. However, Inan didn't know because she was so busy. In her new home, she followed her mother to learn to cook, taught her father to coax her, and every day she woke up wondering which little princess dress to wear, play with dolls or stuffed bears. This is a life she has never experienced before, and she is so happy. At the end of the 20day recording time, Inan's eyes were red and she was reluctant to leave. Just when everyone thought the big star business was over, the actress submitted the formalities to the orphanage to officially adopt the child. The little group was stunned. Later, Mom and Dad learned that their biological daughter was still alive. Everything back then was a deliberate conspiracy. Inan, who was suddenly picked up by excitement, even more stunned. The daughter who lost 4 years ago was the biggest pain in Mo Sui's heart. What she never dreamed was that this child would return to her side. This time, no matter what, the couple must protect Inan. Content label, Entertainment Circle Sweet Text Where Book Cool Text Search Keywords, Protagonist, Mo Sui, Inan Supporting Role, Gu Yuchen Others, the concluding article Female Supporting Cubs Change the Script Online Quick Wear is Very Fat. One sentence introduction, Brave Cubs, Not Afraid of Difficulties. Purpose, Reconciliation and Healing. VIP recommendation, Inan is an abandoned baby. She grew up in an orphanage. At the age of 4, she was invited to be an amateur guest in the variety show Intern Parents. In the show, her mother after the movie is a life idiot, she has been seeing a psychiatrist, and her marriage with her husband is also a piece of shit. But the appearance of Inan changed everything. After the show, the small group reluctantly left the Intern Parents' home. Just when everyone thought that the big star's business was over, the actress submitted the formalities to the orphanage and officially adopted the child. Later, the couple learned that their biological daughter was Inan, and everything that happened back then was a deliberate conspiracy. The style of this article is relaxed and humorous, the story background is rich, the writing is delicate, the characters are attractive, the story logic is meticulous and exciting, it is worth watching. Inan, I'm going home with my new parents soon. There is my own small room with tents and dolls in the room. My parents promised to buy me the most beautiful princess dress, and I will become the children at home are just like normal children. In the evening, the children who were about to leave the orphanage watched their adoptive parents go through the adoption procedures, and couldn't wait to run back to share their joy with their good friends. Inan blinked her big eyes in surprise. Inan, do you also want to have a new home? The little friend asked. Inan's 2 little hands were clasped together, and after thinking about it for a long time, she said, I don't want to. Bragging. The little girl with braids pursed her lips and said, but adults don't like children like you at all. They are too timid and talk like mosquito bites, neither lively nor cute. After that, the little girl's adoptive parents came. The middle-aged couple stood not far away and waved at her. She stood on tiptoe to look at it and ran over with joy. The adoptive parents squatted down, straightened her clothes, and rubbed her head with a smile. Let's go home. The voice fell, and the figures of 2 big and 1 small gradually drifted away under the setting sun, and gradually disappeared from Inan's sight. The little dumpling tilted his head and looked at it for a long time, then the little head drooped down. The life teacher who took care of them heard the conversation between the 2 children from a distance. When he came over, he touched the soft hair of Xiao Tuanzi. The heart of the life teacher is twitching. This child was thrown at the gate of the orphanage not long after he was born. It was cold winter, and the person who lost her wrapped the child in a thick layer, but the baby's face was still red from the cold. The child is growing well and the body is still healthy. What is the reason for the adults in the family to resolutely abandon a 2 or 3-month-old child? The dean named her Anan, Pinganan. Everyone in the whole orphanage hoped that this child would grow up safely. From childhood to adulthood, Anan has been the most well-behaved and sensible child in the orphanage. Very. Anan will be taken to the show by her uncles and aunts in a while, and she will have a home by then. The little dumpling knew that Teacher Zhang was comforting him, and he pulled the corner of his mouth forcefully, revealing his white millet teeth. In fact, she didn't brag about her best friend. Anan doesn't want a new home. She just wants her original home, a home with her parents. The parents who had never met, the little dumpling depicted their appearance countless times in their hearts, full of hope. It would be great if I could go back to my parents. The show team's car is here, Mr. Zhang, clean up your child and take her to the car. Teacher Zhang quickly took out the small luggage bag that had been prepared, and led Anan to the door of the orphanage. This time, in cooperation with the TV station, it was the dean's decision to send children to the program team as amateur guests. At that time, a little girl in the program group who was a volunteer in the courtyard was moved by the cute and timid appearance of the little dumpling when she saw Anan, and hoped that the children would participate in the program. There are not many children between the ages of 3 and 5 in the hospital. At this most suitable age for adoption, the dean hopes that they can be seen by more people. It would be great if the exposure brought about by being on TV could bring more attention to children so that they could be adopted by kind people and lead normal lives. But, is this the right decision? Teacher Zhang is worried that the child will be hurt again. So sad. Today is the day when the first live broadcast of Intern Parents begins. Intern Parents is an observational marriage and love variety show. The 3-star couples participating in the show are very young, have not been married for a long time, and have no plans to have children for the time being. The format of the program is very simple. The program team will install a camcorder in the young couple's home. Except for the rest time at night, the rest will be broadcast live, and the content of the live broadcast is how they bring their babies. Without elders and babysitters to help each other, did the young couple just in the honeymoon period warm up their feelings when they brought the baby, or did they just complain about each other? This is what the audience expects to see. Of course, what everyone is looking forward to more is Mo Sui, one of the guests. No one expected that Mo Sui would actually be willing to participate in this variety show. Mo Sui has been amazing in appearance since her debut, and what is even more amazing is her acting skills. In the 10 years she has been in the industry, she has not acted in many movies, and they are all very popular. At the age of 26, she won the Best Actress crown and showed off the diamond ring on her slender finger on the podium. Mo Sui actually got married. When the news came out, countless people were shocked. The media immediately went to find out who her husband was, but now a year has passed, but there is no clue. In every interview, when reporters asked her about her love life, Mo Sui kept smiling, but who knows, just when everyone thought her mysterious husband would never be exposed, the show was officially announced. Therefore, in addition to looking forward to how the ungrounded Gao Leng Ying will take care of the baby, what everyone wants to see is Mo Sui's new husband. So the show has already attracted a lot of viewers before the live broadcast. Millions of viewers in the live broadcast room waited obediently inside, waiting for a dark screen to light up. "Kid, do you know what kind of show this is?" The staff of the show team sat next to Anan and said softly. Sitting in the corner, Anan blinked, and her little hand gently tugged at the corner of her clothes, wanting to speak, but she didn't dare to make a sound. Anan knew early in the morning that the teacher was going to let her go on TV. There is entertainment time in the orphanage, and watching cartoons in the video classroom after lunch every Tuesday and Friday is the most anticipated activity for every child. Anan is no exception. The little group thought, is the teacher going to take them to participate in the barking team on TV, like the puppies in the barking team, exploring on TV? I know. Anan nodded, and the little milk voice was soft, "The adventure show." Adventure show? Exploring adventures with new parents is not inexplicable. The staff was stunned by the child's soft appearance. The more they looked at them, the more they liked them. They even felt that Xiao Budian was a bit like Mo Yinghao. There was a touch of warmth in his eyes, and he said warmly, "You can be naughty, you can be naughty, you can say whatever you want. The 15-day program, when you are in this house, you are the little baby in the family, you can do whatever you want, okay? Won't they kick me out?" Anand asked curiously. The staff was startled and shook his head firmly, "No." Anand tilted his head blankly. It turns out that the little baby who has a home can be naughty. And, won't be kicked out. Not all adults like to throw away children like their own parents, that's great. The small group breathed a sigh of relief for the other children. The car of the program group is driving on the avenue. The three groups of guests who participated in the show were all very concerned about privacy and did not want to appear in their own homes, so the show team rented them 3 apartment buildings far away from the city center. The reason for not renting a villa is to make the show more lifelike and down to earth. Of course, the environment of the apartment building is also very good, and the decoration style is also warm and warm. Anand, do you understand? Along the way, Anand has written down all the precautions for participating in the show. She nodded obediently, "Understood, thank you sister." Looking at the little baby's face, the staff couldn't help but be happy she called me sister. In just an hour's drive, the staff already liked this little guest very much. So after getting off the car, taking the elevator upstairs and standing at the door of the apartment, she couldn't help sweating for Anand. Among the 3 groups of guests, Mo Yinghao has the largest position and is also the most difficult to get along with. I heard that just a few days ago, Mo Yinghao also asked to withdraw from the program recording, and finally the program director asked her grandpa to tell her grandma, so she coaxed people back. As soon as this happened, the staff in the group who were in charge of the show were quite complaining about Mo Yinghao. "If you don't want to participate, why did you agree earlier? The more I think about it, the more strange it becomes. This actress has never participated in any variety show before. What is the reason? Of course, if the parties do not talk about these issues, they will not be able to guess why." Now she just hoped that Queen Mo Ying would not be too cold, so as not to hurt the children. "Anand, when you see someone later, be polite, okay?" The staff member said, "We are going to knock on the door now. As soon as the door opens, the uncle with the camera next to him will open the live broadcast room. At that time, your words and deeds will be recorded." Anand seemed to understand, but her little hands tightly clenched the hem of her light pink skirt, her little heart hanging in her throat. 3, 2, 1. Bang bang bang, the live broadcast room opened, and countless barrages poured out. Not long after, the door was slowly opened. Mo Sui opened the door, nodded at everyone, and the corner of his mouth drew a faint arc. Her skin was pale, her eyes were tired, and she didn't look like she was on TV. Thinking about it carefully, everyone has not seen her active on the big screen or in interviews for a long time. But a beauty is a beauty, and even if the state is not good, it still makes people unable to look away. "Welcome to you." Mo Sui opened his mouth, his eyes slowly moved down, and fell on Xiao Budian in front of him. Anand carried a small school bag and looked up at people. And because there were too many uncles and aunts carrying cameras, microphones, and other equipment, she was almost overwhelmed, so her little feet stood on tiptoe high, and she was so tired that she hummed. After a while, she finally met Mo Sui's eyes. At this moment, both of them were slightly stunned. The audience in the live broadcast room was also boiling. "Where did you find this little cub? It's too soft and cute, it doesn't lose to a child star at all. Have you noticed that she is a bit like Mo Sui? Queen Gao Lengying and cute, soft and fluffy, this show must be very exciting." At the same time, the image of this person flashed across the small group's mind as if it were a big movie of the bark team. Anan dreamed of this ant. Mo Sui looked at Anan subconsciously. The child was snow white, wearing a light pink skirt, and his exposed arms were white and plump, and he looked like he was eating well. The teacher at the orphanage tied her with 2 small tugs, matched with hairpins of the same color. Her hair was soft and a little yellow, which made her face even whiter. She was so small that she was almost drowning in the crowd. She stood on tiptoe and looked very labored. She looked at herself hard, her eyes as clear as black grapes blinking. At the same time, the attention of Xiao Tuanzi was also attracted by Mo Sui. She was wearing grey-blue home clothes, her skin was snow white, and her long chestnut wavy hair was casually and draped over her slender shoulders. There were also a few broken hairs that fell from her forehead, which fell gently down. In front of her eyes, she blocked some cold eyes. Children who grow up in orphanages are the ones who look the most at people's faces. The smile on the ant's face was very light. She squatted down to find slippers for herself. Although she was polite, she didn't seem to like herself at all. "Miss Mo, this is your little guest. Her name is An." The staff member hurriedly introduced, "Anan, call your mother quickly." The shallow curvature of the corners of Mo Sui's lips did not dissipate, but the movements in his hands paused. She didn't want the little girl in front of her to call her mother. "How old are you?" Mo Sui changed the subject and asked coldly. Anan pursed her small mouth, hesitated for a long time, and pointed out 4 fingers, "I am 4 years old." When the voice fell, she was silent. This aunt doesn't like her, and she doesn't want to call her mother. When the staff saw this, they were a little nervous. This kid, why can't it happen? The program team originally wanted to conduct a simple interview with Mo Sui's husband. After all, this is what the audience loves to watch. But who knows, Mo Sui said he went on a business trip and would not be back for 3 days. That being the case, the program crew didn't stay much longer, installed cameras in the room, and left first. When everyone dispersed, only 1 big and 1 small remained in the house, with big eyes staring at small ones. Mo Sui didn't know how to get along with the child, so he pointed to the position on the sofa, and just as he was about to speak, he saw Anan running to the side of the small tent where the camera was installed. There is a bench over there, and the small group sits down firmly. The picture is very harmonious. It's just that, on her fleshy little face, a pair of bright eyes are looking at herself seriously, with a hint of timid vigilance. After all, Mo Sui is an adult, how can he endure such an endless stalemate with a child? Although she doesn't want to participate in this show, since she has signed a contract, she can only be dedicated to her work. After all, it's only 15 days to finish this episode. Mo Sui took out the mission card left by the show team before leaving, opened it, and handed it to Anan. "Look at your mission." Anan watched from a distance, her chin raised slightly, and she glanced curiously at the task card in Mo Sui's hand. "Doesn't even this fit?" Mo Sui raised her delicate eyebrows slightly. "We're not familiar with each other, and it's normal that we don't talk together. But I can assure you that I'm not a bad guy." It was rare for Mo Sui to say so much at one time, sighed softly in his heart, and looked at Anan again. "Can you accept the mission card now?" Anan tilted her head, listening to her saying this series of words. Finally, the little dumpling said softly, "I don't know how to read." Mo Sui. "Ha ha ha ha, it's like chicken and duck talking. You have to be coaxed when you talk to a child, how can there be such a big reason? It seems that the actress really doesn't know how to get along with children. However, the purpose of this show is to teach parents how to raise children. Recently, I have always heard people say that it is the first time for parents to become parents, but every time adults do something wrong, they use this trick, and they always feel that something is wrong. Now I'm on the show as an intern parent, and then I'll be able to do better when I have a child myself." There is also a saying that if parents can take the exam first, this is equivalent to a disguised exam, right? But does this count as treating the little guest as a white mouse? I heard that this child's life experience is quite pitiful. After a while, some netizens have already revealed Anne's life experience. Knowing that this was a child picked up from an orphanage, who had no father or mother since childhood, the audience in front of the live broadcast room immediately felt very distressed. What a cute child, how could her parents be so cruel? For a while, the audience hoped that Mo Sui could put down her role as an actress. Regardless of whether you will raise your children or not, in this short 15-day recording, give Xiaobu some warmth. Mo Sui looked at Anan for a while, making sure that the little dumpling didn't fail after deliberately trying to get along with him. Then let me read it to you. She beckoned and asked Anan to come over. This time, the little girl with milky humming was obedient, walking towards Mo Sui with short legs. When she sat down, she leaned forward slightly and stared at the words on the task card. From Mo Sui's point of view, he could just see the child coming over. The little dumpling's long eyelashes trembled, and he raised his head again, his tender face full of confusion. Why don't you miss it? The first day's task Mo Sui kept a distance from her, still sitting upright, and read, Task 1, Mother and daughter read a picture book together, Task 2, Cook dinner together. Mo Sui's voice was soft, just like the voice of the story in the Mama Orange Telling Stories program that was broadcast on the radio before the orphanage in the past. It was very nice. Anan listened attentively, and her little hand couldn't help but put her cheek on her cheek, squeezing out a lump of toot meat. Children are very forgetful. After Mo Sui read the task card, Anan thought of Mama Orange on the radio, so the little dumpling forgot Mo Sui's indifference at first, and subconsciously got closer to her. The picture book is prepared in advance by the program team. One big and one small hold the picture book and start to complete the task. The name of the picture book is Where Do I Come From? Mo Sui flipped through it roughly, and it tells the story of a little boy asking his mother where he came from. Anan often listened to stories when she was in the orphanage, but they were all from the radio. No matter how detailed the life teacher was, it was impossible to take into account so many children. So at this time, she waited eagerly, waiting for Mo Sui to tell her a story. Mo Sui's fair and slender fingers slid lightly across the pages, word by word, calmly reciting. Although there is no exaggerated tone of high-pitched tone like when coaxing the child to speak, the child still listens with relish. Slowly, the two got closer. Anan asked in a low voice, Auntie, does it hurt to have a baby? Pain. The pain is like losing half of his life. People who pay more attention to their own image will scream and cry in the delivery room. Anan's bad behavior made my mother hurt so much, so she got angry with me after giving birth, so she threw me away. Anan gathered up her courage and asked in a low voice, but the more she spoke, the lower her voice became, and she was a little embarrassed and lowered her head. The small dumpling's soft voice reminded Mo Sui to set his eyes on her face. It was clearly a sour sentence, but when Anan said it, it was as ordinary as talking about 3 meals a day, with bright eyes blinking, innocent and curious. Mo Sui, no mother is so angry that she loses her child because giving birth is too painful. Anan tilted her head to listen. The light in her eyes gradually became brighter. In the end, she seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, and patted her little chest lightly. It turned out that Anan was not thrown away because she was too naughty and tossed her mother too much in her stomach. In this way, she is relieved. At this moment, the audience in front of the live broadcast room breathed a sigh of relief. God knows how much they are afraid that Mo Sui will deal with this child in a perfunctory way because of his arrogant personality. In front of human cubs, how cold adults will soften. Such a well-behaved child, also worry about being thrown away because he is not well-behaved? It's so distressing. Although Mo Sui is indifferent, he is quite patient with children. This is called patience? Have you fans been pooed? and you can boast about the flowers when the big stars say a few words casually. Where Mo Sui was there was heat and controversy, and the live broadcast room soon became noisy. The fan black war and the crowd of melon eaters watching the excitement made Mo Sui's live broadcast room more and more popular. Of course, there were also viewers who came to the live broadcast room just to watch the warm daily life. They were persuaded by the smoky barrage in Mo Sui's live broadcast room and clicked into the next live broadcast room. In the live studio next door are singer Zhang Lin and talent singer Qin Feng with a lively little boy, both of them are scumbags. Kind of like. The other group was even more boring. The amateur guests heard that the investor was stuffed in, and they were spoiled. One of them shouted when they were not happy. The couple had no choice but to coax her honestly. In comparison, Mo Sui's live broadcast room is more interesting. The audience who went out for a turn came back not long after, and after the barrage that had been so noisy was managed, everyone's speeches became much calmer. It's just that on the screen, one big and one small, who finally got close to each other for a few minutes while reading the picture book, had nothing to do at this time, and fell into an awkward silence again. The audience was amused by the deflated appearance of the actress, and couldn't help posting a whole row of ha 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 on the barrage. What's next? It seems to be cooking. Does Mo Sui really know how to cook? She usually has an assistant to follow up with everything she does. It is estimated that she can't even wash vegetables. This child is also pitiful. With such an intern mother on the stall, don't go to the end, let the child cook for her. There was a lot of bad talk in the barrage, but Mo Sui didn't know. She stood up and walked to the kitchen, and said to Anan, "What would you like to eat at night?" Anan thought for a while, "Is spare rib soup okay?" "I won't." Mo Sui opened the refrigerator and looked at the compartment filled with the show crew. "What about scrambled eggs with tomatoes?" Anan asked again in a low voice. Mo Sui took an egg, glanced at the tomato again, and put the egg back again. "I won't." Anan was a little annoyed. She doesn't like to cause trouble for adults. Seeing Xiao Tuan lowered his eyes, Mo Sui closed the refrigerator door and explained casually, "I usually eat salad. You shouldn't be able to, okay?" Anan raised her head suddenly without thinking about it. Mo Sui was stunned for a moment when she saw the little dumpling's sparkling eyes and a pleasing smile on the corner of her mouth. Subconsciously, she took out the eggs and tomatoes again. "Try it. You can't let your kids eat a cold salad with you." Watching Mo Sui pick up the tomatoes and eggs and walk to the Nakajima terrace, Anan obediently followed. The kitchen is an open design, with all pots and pans. Mo Sui stood silent for a long time in front of a pile of utensils. Where was Kuriko just now? Are you still going to slap the bar now? Mo Sui was very kind. When she saw that her child wanted to eat scrambled eggs with tomatoes, she immediately did it. What is there to brag about? Mo Sui took over this program, and is the child's intern mother. The child is still so young, should the child cook by himself? Looking at her standing stupidly, I guess she can't even tell the difference between light soy sauce and vinegar, so don't put salt in it as sugar. Sometimes I really wonder, what is going on with these big stars? At the age of 27, he is still an idiot in life, and he doesn't even have the ability to take care of himself. This industry is not normal, and variety shows are like a mirror, letting them reveal their true colors. Let's see how many stars have overturned on the show over the years. The barrage became more and more lively, and slowly, everyone began to discuss Mo Sui's state. It has been more than a year since the last time the actress appeared. For more than a year, she has not taken up work, nor has she had any business on social media. Fans are eagerly waiting. This time, she finally saw her on the show, and the support club was like a Chinese New Year. But even an old fan for many years, seeing Mo Sui on the screen at this time, can't say a good state without conscience. At the age of 27, although he can't compare with the little sister of the girl group, fans always feel that Mo Sui should be more dazzling than now. instead of being exhausted like she was at this time. It's not that it's not beautiful, it's just that it's not as high-spirited as it was back then. It is said that the popularity raises people. She is still very popular, and her position in the circle is also stable. Why does it seem like she has wilted overnight? Has something happened to Mo Sui recently? Is it because the marriage is not happy? It doesn't make sense. We've only been married for a year, my sister has never bothered us, whether it's career or life, and this time it's the same. I think my sister just didn't rest well, she will definitely pick up again. These fans upstairs, reply to your super words, don't be an eyesore here, we came here to see the cubs. The intern mother stood dumbfounded and didn't know where to start, and the cub stood next to her to accompany her. I have never seen such a well-behaved child, and it was so quiet that it was distressing. Anne is really quiet. It was so quiet that even Mo Sui almost forgot that there was a little boy standing beside him. I can eat salad. Anand looked at the embarrassed new mother and said softly. Mo Sui finally took his eyes off the row of seasonings. Wait a moment. She went back to the living room, took out her phone, and started looking for recipes. Tomato scrambled eggs is a home-cooked dish. The steps are very simple, as long as you follow the steps, you will not go wrong. Mo Sui had never cooked by himself, although it was a little difficult now. He followed the recipe slowly and looked in a hurry, but somehow he got started. Cut tomatoes into small pieces. Beat the eggs and mix well. Heat oil in a hot pan. Mo Sui came step by step, and when the oil pan was steaming hot, he threw all the tomatoes and eggs into it. The two ingredients were mixed together, and it didn't look very good. When she found that the appearance of this dish was different from what she usually saw, she remembered that the recipe said that the eggs should be put in the pot first. But no matter what, this plate of tomato scrambled eggs is always cooked. Anne's little belly was so hungry that she didn't need anyone to shout. She climbed up on the dining chair by herself, sat at the dining table, and waited for the meal to start. It's just that the child is too small, his head is flush with the dining table, his chin is raised high, and he tries hard to reach the table. When Mo Sui came back, seeing Anne's struggling appearance, his eyes fell on the children's chair prepared by the program team next to him. Cubs don't know what this is? Now every family has a baby chair, and children have been sitting and eating complimentary food since they were babies, but Anand grew up in an orphanage and has never seen such a thing, suddenly feel a little sad. Sit here. Mo Sui put the plate on the dining table and patted the children's chair. Anand tilted her head and thought for a long time. White high chair with a footrest and seat belt. Is this for her to sit? Can you do it yourself? Mo Sui asked, but he had no intention of carrying her up. Anand nodded, two small hands supported the dining chair, her short legs were swaying, she slid down from it, turned around and stepped on the small steps of the children's chair to climb up. After sitting firmly, she lowered her head again, holding the seat belt with two small hands, studying how to fasten it. You're an older child, you don't need this. Okay. Anand grinned, revealing her white millet teeth. The little dumpling is very sensible. She doesn't need to be fed when she eats. She holds a small spoon and is ready to start. Mo Sui also sat down and watched her eat. The child eats slowly, but every time he scoops a spoonful of tomato scrambled eggs and stuffs it into his mouth, the corners of his mouth will be stained with some tomato juice, and he will eat a little cat in no time. Is it so delicious? Mo Sui held his cheeks and thought, and suddenly, something was wrong. Do I have to serve her with a bowl of white rice? Next to Mo Sui's house are the newlyweds Zhonglin and Qin Feng's house. At this moment, Qin Feng is leading amateur guests in the living room, while Zhonglin is cooking in the kitchen. The little guest is a 5-year-old boy. His parents signed up for this event. He thought he was here to play, but in just a few hours, he could not wait to let his parents pick him up and go home. The reason is that Qin Feng has been holding the guitar and singing to him. Qin Feng is a talent show singer. He sings not badly, but he loves to be present. He wants to show off his singing voice with a child. Finally, another song came to an end, and Lily finally had time to run away, but was quickly pulled back by Qin Feng. Lily, does Dad sing well? Lily shook his head with an embarrassed expression. Qin Feng showed a loving expression and rubbed the top of the child's head. You just love to joke with Dad. After he finished speaking, he also gave the little guy a kiss on the face. Lily's little hand was lifted into the air, and the corner of his mouth shriveled. In fact, he felt that he was not so familiar with this uncle. You don't like listening to adults' music, do you? Then at night, Dad will sing you the theme song of the cartoon. Lily. Although he was a newcomer and was not familiar with this place, he was already 5 years old and a little man. Be brave. So, the little guy straightened his chest and gathered up his courage. Can you not? Qin Feng's mouth twitched. The few hundred viewers in the live broadcast room kept laughing. Tuk tuk tuk, Xiaolin, is there someone knocking on the door? Qin Feng picked up his arms and walked to the door. Zhonglin was so tired in the kitchen that she regretted that she had negotiated with her husband before the show. She shouldn't be set up with a good wife and a good mother. Isn't it better to set up a petite person? Is it bad to be pampered? But now, half of the meal is done, and the character design that I set up will continue to be performed when I cry. She wiped her apron with her hand and stuck her head out. Who is it? As soon as the door opened, Qin Feng and Zhonglin widened their eyes and remained silent for 3 seconds. Hello, I want to borrow a bowl of rice. Mo Sui said. It's definitely not too late to cook now. Qin Feng and Zhonglin were very polite, and immediately took the bowls of rice and trotted to bring it to her. Mo Sui nodded in thanks, turned and walked next door. Although some viewers in the live broadcast room complained that Mo Sui was a life idiot, and even forgot to cook for the children in advance, but when she heard that she was going to borrow food from the next door to an inn at home, she immediately followed to the live broadcast room, watching it with great interest of. When Mo Sui's back completely disappeared from sight, Qin Feng and Zhonglin looked at each other. The faces of the two were flushed red, and they were extremely excited. It's Mo Sui. The show team actually let us live next to her. Looking at the two of them, Lily buried his small head and sighed deeply. Are you really going to spend 15 days with these two strange people? I guess these two little scumbags must be thinking, is there any way to get the camera of Mo Sui's house? Although these two people don't look very smart, but the characters of the stupid couple seem to be very good. The live broadcast of the first day ends at 9 p.m. The staff set the timer function in advance, and the camera was turned off on time. No matter how reluctant the audience in the live broadcast room was, they could only wait until tomorrow morning to see the cubs and the actress. Just before going offline, everyone is worried about a problem. Will Mo Sui sleep with the cub at night? In an unfamiliar environment, if an An is allowed to live alone, she will definitely be afraid. You sleep in this room. Mo Sui waited for An to wash up and took her to the children's room. Is it okay to be alone? An didn't have time to answer her words, but just looked at the room curiously. The small room is pasted with pink wallpaper, with a pink bed, and even the sheets are pink and tender. An placed the small slippers neatly beside the bed, and gently lifted the quilt, as if afraid of soiling such a beautiful sheet, and carefully got into the quilt. There is a really big doll on the children's bed. The little dumpling was amazed and hugged the doll in his arms. Usually in the orphanage, An sleeps with her friends. For the first time sleeping alone, she was a little nervous, but also looking forward to it. Moreover, there are dolls to accompany her. Anything else? Before Mo Sui turned to go out, he paused. Do you want more milk? The little dumpling nodded, his eyes were bright, and the smile on the corner of his mouth was a little shy. 5 minutes later, she took the milk from Mo Sui with both hands. Still warm. Go brush your teeth after drinking. The voice fell, and the door of the children's room was gently closed. Anan held the milk cup in both hands and lowered her head to take a sip. Fragrant and warm. On the other side, Mo Sui was lying on the bed tossing and turning. What echoed in his mind was the nightmare of the past. She got up and left the room. Anne fell asleep at first. Even if it is the first time to come to an unfamiliar place, the child has not been nurtured and grown up since he was a child, so his ability to adapt is very good. Coupled with the company of the doll, Anne slowly fell asleep. Just this dream, not pleasant. The little dumpling dreamed that he lived in a book. She didn't know the words, she couldn't read the title of the book, she only knew the plot related to herself. In her dream, she was also a child living in an orphanage. The variety show Intern Parents began to be recorded, and she was sent to the intern parents' house. The intern mother looks cold, but she is not bad, and sometimes she shows tenderness inadvertently. But in the process of getting along, Anand discovered that the intern mother drank a lot of alcohol. Anand wanted to find someone to help her, but she finally realized that the relationship between the two of them was bad when her intern father came back from a business trip. The 4-year-old Xiao Tuanzi didn't know what was wrong between the adults. All she knew was that in the original plot, not long after she was sent back to the orphanage, she heard the dean's grandma mention the intern mother regretfully. She drank heavily every day, her body was ruined by drinking, and she was afflicted with pain. After a year, she passed away. Anand woke up. Mo Sui took the red wine and a glass and went to the balcony. There are large and small cameras in this apartment, but Mo Sui's bedroom and balcony are not. Although the cameras are off now, the balcony makes her feel more secure. The wind in the summer night was still sultry, and her chest seemed to be blocked by something. She opened the wine and poured it into the glass. Mo Sui has made many movies, and there are many scenes of drinking. The heroine in the movie is elegant even when drinking. The breeze blows her long hair, and every sip is like enjoying. But in reality, she wasn't like that. Her complexion was pale, her eyes were hollow, but her expression was flustered. She poured a full glass of wine into the glass and poured it down her throat. The red wine was sent by the assistant before she moved in. The little girl who just graduated couldn't tell whether the wine was good or bad, so she just moved a case. The taste of the wine was very bad. But Mo Sui miraculously calmed down. After filling himself 2 more glasses in one breath, Mo Sui took a deep breath. The picture book she told Xiao Tuanzi before dinner reminded her of painful memories unconsciously. To this day, she still remembers the pain when she was sent to the delivery room. She is the most image-conscious, unable to control herself on the delivery bed, and the pain is excruciatingly painful. But even so, the happiness when she saw her daughter for the first time was still the most wonderful thing she had ever experienced. At that time, the midwife held the little baby in her arms, gently pressed the baby's face to her cheek, and said, "Kiss her mother." The child was gently supported by the nurse, like a crumpled little monkey. She was very weak, but she couldn't help shaking her head and muttering that this little one is too ugly. Mo Sui thought quietly, and couldn't help but a smile appeared on the corner of his lips. But in an instant, the smile faded again. Is it because she dislikes this little guy, so the little guy is annoyed and will leave him? The time I spent with my daughter was very short, and later, the child was gone. Since then, Mo Sui has been unable to sleep all night, from a small glass of wine before going to bed to drinking gradually. The psychiatrist said that if this continues, her condition will get worse. Agreeing to participate in this show was suggested by a psychiatrist. Dr. Lin said that a heart disease still needs a doctor. When she came out of the consultation room that day, she agreed with a fever, but the closer it was to the recording day, the more afraid she became. I wanted to resign, but it was too late. The cluttered thoughts in my mind were finally straightened out, and they were no longer entangled like a mess, but they were not drunk enough. She still thinks of that little baby with a mischievous smile. Her daughter. Mo Sui took a deep breath and held the red wine bottle in her slender hands. Suddenly, a small movement came from the living room. The lights were not turned on at home, and the little dumpling was unfamiliar with this place, so he came out in the dark, touched the vase, and made a small milky sound of awe. She didn't give up and groped to the balcony. Under the moonlight, Xiao Tuan's hair was a little messy, his fleshy cheeks were flushed, and his eyes were sleepy. I have to admit, it's cute. Cuter than any child star she's worked with before. What's up? Anan was not frightened by Mo Sui's indifferent tone, but took a few steps forward. She had a headache and frowned slightly. She didn't drink too much today, and her consciousness was still clear. Milk. What? Can you warm milk? The little dumpling spoke weakly again. The child's timid eyes are too pitiful. When she first arrives in an unfamiliar place, it is inevitable that she will feel dependent on others. In addition, her background will make her mind more vulnerable and sensitive than other children. Therefore, even if Mo Sui was reluctant, he could not refuse her. Mo Sui came out from the balcony and walked towards the kitchen, turning on the lights in the room all the way. Although the light was warm, it still stabbed An's eyes. The child narrowed his eyes and followed Mo Sui closely, as if the tragic ending in his dream would reappear if he was not careful. Mo Sui took a milk pot, took out the milk carton from the refrigerator, unscrewed the lid and poured it into the milk pot. The milk in the pot was steaming gulu-gulu. She took a cup and poured the milk into it. The wall of the cup is not too hot, and the child should be able to hold it steady. Take it, go to sleep after drinking. Mo Sui walked to the balcony and added, don't come out again. But she didn't know that the little dumpling was like a little tail, following her every step of the way. When she sat down on the chair on the balcony again and reached for the wine glass, two chubby little snow-white hands handed over the milk glass. Auntie, drink. After Anan drank it, the glass of milk before going to bed was fragrant and warm, and she wanted to share it with her aunt. Milk should taste better than wine, because wine doesn't smell good. Mo Sui was stunned. Seeing that she hadn't taken the cup, the little dumpling was not in a hurry, her clear eyes stared at her and waited patiently. 1 second passed, 2 seconds passed. Mo Sui thought that if her daughter was still alive, she would be as old as this child. Dr. Lin said that heart disease still needs heart medicine, is that what he meant? Involuntarily, she was moved by the warmth in the child's eyes and gently took the milk cup. The freshly heated milk, with a layer of milk skin floating on the surface, smells much more fragrant than that glass of inferior red wine. Thank you. Mo Sui said softly. An's mouth was raised slightly, and she waved her hand softly, you're welcome. After a glass of milk last night, when I woke up the next day, Anan and Mo Sui were obviously close. Even the audience in the barrage area noticed this. Do you think that Mo Sui doesn't seem so cold to the cubs? Although the two of them are still sitting together with big eyes and small eyes, Mo Sui knows that he has to take care of the little friend. Early in the morning, I actually boiled 2 eggs and a glass of milk for the child. What nutrition does this have? My baby eats 2 eggs, 1 egg pancake, 1 bowl for breakfast every day. Don't look for a sense of existence for the child's mother upstairs. No one cares what your child eats. Everyone pays attention to what Zize eats in the morning, only I find that Mo Sui's mental state is much better today. It seems that the whole face is not so puffy. The barrage area was lively and lively, while the dining table at home was relatively quiet. Mo Sui didn't have the habit of eating breakfast, so he brewed a cup of black coffee for himself, and just wanted to help Anan peel the eggs, but found that the little dumplings can do anything, knocking eggs with small hands. She can dig out small pieces of egg shells. Mo Sui hadn't been so focused on one thing for a long time. She rested her cheek in one hand and looked at Anan quietly. The child took a small mouthful of eggs and a small mouthful of milk, showing a satisfied expression. When she realized strangely that such a process was what Dr. Lin called the sense of healing brought about by slowing down, she was startled. At that time, she was not good, because she was not with the child all the time. Her daughter was only 3 months old, and she returned to the crew to film. She hadn't even seen the child for the last time. What qualifications does she have to heal herself like this? Mo Sui quickly returned to his indifferent expression. For a long time to come, not only the audience in the live broadcast room, but also Anan could see that Mo Sui was in a bad mood. Xiao Tuanzi didn't know what was going on, she just followed Mo Sui and did the tasks according to the task cards that the program team shoved through the cracks in the door. But the strange thing is that even though Mo Sui's condition is very bad, the overall program effect presented by this family is not depressing. One big and one small live together naturally, harmoniously like a real mother and daughter. Mo Sui herself is not in business, so fans help her to do business. The support group not only swiped the entry of number on Kahua, but also made expression packs of Mo Sui and Anan, splicing them together. This time, it was the turn of passers-by fans to be surprised. Where did the show team find a child so similar to Mo Sui? On the second day of getting along with Mo Sui, Anan likes her more and more. Before coming to this family, Xiao Tuanzi listened to the staff sister that this program is to show the audience the most real life of a family of 3. The intern dad won't be home until tomorrow, but Anan is happy enough. Because being with an intern mother can also make her feel at home. Mo Sui didn't know what Anan was thinking. If she knew, she would only think that this child is too easy to satisfy. Several groups of families and other families will definitely not behave as coldly as she does when treating their children. Just when she thought so, the program team sent a new task. Next door guests Zhang Lin and Qin Feng prepared a sumptuous dinner and invited the other 2 groups of guests to their house. Mo Sui put down the task card and looked at Anan, who didn't know anything about it. Is she going to visit a stranger's house with a child? Too embarrassing. At the same time, the barrage area was boiling. The idiot couple held it back all night, and finally they couldn't hold back and released their big move. It's not easy, let them rub this shot. The 3 children have different personalities, and they must be cute when they play together. Isn't anyone expecting how Mo Sui gets along with the other 2 groups of guests? Shouldn't it still be holding such a high attitude? I want to see it. Anan is a quiet child, so even if the home is deserted, she can adapt well. In the past, at the orphanage, a teacher was responsible for taking care of many children. Teacher Zhang couldn't take care of that much. He just asked the children to be obedient and not to bump into each other. No matter what she does, Anan is alone. Sometimes she talks to her friends, but everyone is 3 or 5 years old, so what tricks can they play? But with an intern mother, it's different. Anan likes to follow her closely, follow her, and have fun no matter what. Just like now, the intern mother sits in front of the dressing table and puts on makeup, and the little dumplings watch it with relish. Mo Sui rarely wears makeup by herself, because she has to be in the mirror, so she can't face the sky when she wakes up in the morning, but it's just a simple primer. But now it's different to go to someone else's house as a guest. The agent specially called to remind that it was the first time that the show team had brought 3 groups of families together, and they would definitely open their business on the official blog. Even if she didn't care about the comments of netizens, doesn't she even want a job opportunity? Mo Sui, others don't know our situation, but we know it ourselves. Since the movie the year before last, you haven't received a suitable drama. The few directors you admire have high requirements for actors. Last time, director Joe was still muttering in private. In the past 2 years, why do you seem to have lost your spiritual energy all of a sudden? The blooming period of an actress is very short. Although you have strength, we are not afraid, but the question is, where has your strength gone in these 2 years? If you still want your career, you can't go on like this anymore. You can't afford it. This variety show is now attracting a lot of attention because of you. You have to refire your popularity. The agent, Sister Wu, has been with her for more than 10 years. Along the way, Mo Sui's career development was smooth, but it stagnated in the past 2 years. She doesn't need an audition to act, and she joins the group directly after receiving the show, but how long can she eat her old instincts? Several familiar directors were dissatisfied with her performance, and so was she herself. Not long after joining the group a few times recently, Mo Sui quit the production because of physical discomfort. Although it has not been fermented by the media, in this circle, the secret cannot be kept. In other words, Mo Sui has made the road narrower and narrower. But what if someone with a heart will carefully uncover her situation? She is now walking on a tightrope, and if she is not careful, she will fall to pieces. An invisible pressure lingered in my heart. It's not that she doesn't want to, it's just her psychological condition that doesn't allow herself to go on as recklessly as she did when she was young. Mo Sui rubbed his eyebrows and put the blush brush in his hand back on the dressing table. No makeup? The show crew deliberately placed the dressing table in the corner of the living room. Didn't they just want us to watch the makeup of the big stars? I also want to see Mo Sui turned into a beauty blogger. But then again, is Mo Sui being too unprofessional? She is a star, and she doesn't even manage her beauty. Do you really think that the money from variety shows is easy to make, but lying flat is just bad money? Plus one, the cub is really cute, but why is Mo Sui doing these things so disrespectful? Mo Sui really didn't want to wear makeup anymore. But who knows, at the moment when she put the brush down, a soft white hand gently held the blush brush. Anan had never seen this thing before, but was so curious. She stared at the bristles for a while, and her little face became serious, looking at the brush now and then at the mirror. This can't be done. Mo Sui didn't even think about it. She doesn't know if there is any makeup for children, but obviously, this blush cannot be used on children's faces. After all, even these actors usually pay attention to skincare and makeup removal, and the skin barrier will be damaged by cosmetics, not to mention the delicate skin of children. Children can't wear makeup. However, as soon as she finished speaking, the soft bristles gently brushed her cheeks. Mo Sui was startled and looked down at Anan. The little dumpling stood on tiptoe, learned the technique of the trainee mother just now, and swept her cheeks with a blush brush. The originally fair skin was painted with creamy light apricot blush, which turned white and red. The color was not heavy. No matter how Anan brushed it, it still looked gentle and soft. At this moment, the delicate face seemed to be sprinkled with a ray of warm sun, and the whole person became softer. You. Mo Sui was slightly startled, and his body froze slightly. It's beautiful. The little dumpling tilted his head, with a slightly shy smile at the corner of his mouth, then turned his head to look at the messy dresser, and finally stretched out his little hand to an eyeliner. What is this? Anan wants to try. Seeing the child's small appearance, Mo Sui hurriedly took the eyeliner back. That I'll do it myself, she said uncomfortably. Mo Sui really doesn't want to change, but after thinking about it, he can't use his face as a canvas for cubs. So it's just a false alarm, our big stars will still be beautiful. The small beauty bloggers are offline, and the big beauty bloggers are online. Zhonglin is preparing dinner at home. At first, Zhonglin wanted to order takeout to entertain everyone, but after a long discussion in the bedroom, the couple decided to cook by themselves. There is no other reason. The good wife and good mother that was decided at the beginning cannot be lost. Zhonglin cooks some home-cooked dishes, but the dishes are exquisitely presented, which seems to be particularly inconsistent. Putting a plate of spicy chicken in the shape of a Western meal was really exhausting to her. When she was almost finished, she brought dishes to the dining table. Just as she was about to call her husband and trainee son for help, she heard the arguing between them in the bathroom. Good, spray some hair wax, and Dad will scratch your hair for you. No, it's so pompous. Come on, this is like a father's son. Zhang Lin. She turned to look at her face from the reflection of the refrigerator door. No matter how delicate makeup is, it will be smeared by the oil in the pot. Very angry. Ding dong, the doorbell rang. Hearing the sound of the newlywed wife placing the plate heavily on the dining table, Qin Feng finally ran to open the door with discernment. Here comes another group of guests. This group of guests is also a young couple. The male guest is a web drama director named Zhang Jinming. In the past 2 years, he has exported several low-cost web dramas, which caused little splash. His wife's name is Zhuang Ruyan, and she looks gentle and delicate. She has just debuted and has no works yet. Both of them have unassuming temperaments, but the children they carry are daunting. The little girl was wearing an exaggerated princess dress with a small curly hair permed. Dada ran into the house, took a look at the dining table, and showed an expression of disgust. The next moment, she turned around like a proud little princess. Is there no strawberry cake? Zhuang Ruyan and Zhang Jinming looked at the host apologetically, and hurried forward to pull Nini. But Kenny turned her head away, put her hands on her hips, and stomped her feet. I'm going to eat strawberry cake. Otherwise, I'll ask my father to kick you all out of the show. My father is rich, if you bully me, he won't spare you. Qin Feng's mouth twitched. Fortunately, the investors did not stuff this upstart cub into their house. The audience in the live room became impatient. Where did the bear boy come from? I had a good impression of Zhuang Ruyan and Zhang Jinming before, but every time I accidentally clicked into their live broadcast room, I was persuaded by this baby. A good intern parent, as a parent, should educate their children, right? It's not that Zhuang Ruyan has no education. She walked up to Nini and squatted down, coaxing softly, Nini is good, we are here as guests. Strawberry. Egg. Cake. Nini gritted her teeth and lost her temper. If you lose your temper, you won't be beautiful. We Nini are the most beautiful little girl. You can't be angry. This time the little girl showed a thoughtful expression. Zhuang Ruyan breathed a sigh of relief. If you want to laugh, Nini who laughs is the little princess. Nini thought for a long time, then shook her head solemnly. My mother said that laughter will cause wrinkles. Li stood aside with his head tilted. Don't bully him for being young, the little princess in fairy tales is not like this. Everyone in the audience didn't know how to take this kid's words. Fortunately, Zhang Lin smoothed it out, I'll use the takeaway software to order a strawberry cake. At this moment, there was a light knock on the closed door. Everyone turned their eyes to the door. The bright and moving female star stood there with a little girl carved in pink and jade. The child looked timid, but the female star's expression was high, and there was a bit of indifference between her eyebrows and eyes, as if she had long been used to being looked up at, and she was sure that her appearance would definitely become the focus of attention. Beauty is open today. It's so pretty, take a screenshot now. At a glance just now, there is a sense of amazement in the past, and it is still Mo Sui who is the most beautiful old lady. Thanks to the cub, urging my mother to make up ha 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 ha. Zhang Lin and Qin Feng immediately welcomed her into the room warmly. Zhuang Ruyan stepped aside and secretly glanced at Mo Sui several times. In contrast, Zhang Jinming was the most calm. He quickly stepped forward and stretched out his right hand, handed over the prepared business card, and introduced himself. Hello, Miss Mo, I'm Zhang Jinming, the director of The Spoiled Sweet Wife, Run Quickly and One Child with Three Treasures Cool Mom. Do you want to find a chance to meet you and exchange contact information with you? Mo Sui didn't shake his hand, didn't even look at the business card, just looked for the bathroom. The little dumpling just played with cosmetics and had to wash their hands before eating. As time passed by, Zhuang Ruyan felt embarrassed for her husband and her face turned pale. Suddenly, a small hand stretched out weakly. Anan took the gilded small card. Everyone's toes stretched out. Only then did Jiang Jinming realize that there was a layer of cold sweat on his back. Lily's eyes widened, realizing an important thing. The little princess in fairy tales should look like this. Suddenly I don't like this director anymore, I feel that he is very utilitarian. The queen is really not good enough, how can I be reduced to being on the show with this bunch of scumbags? It is estimated that the program team spent all the money on hiring the actress. Woo woo woo, cub is so warm, she couldn't bear to see Jiang Jinming embarrassed, so she took the business card over. Looking at this scene, Zhang Lin and Qin Feng stared at each other with big eyes, crazily hinting at each other. The limelight has been stolen by others. Rub 1. The atmosphere between adults is so tense, children can naturally perceive it. When Zhang Lin greeted everyone to sit down for dinner, Nini followed Zhuang Ruyan and asked, "Who is this?" Zhuang Ruyan remembered Mo Sui's attitude of refusing to be 1,000 miles away, and felt worthless for her husband. Her mother worked as an artist assistant in a brokerage company, and she heard some gossip that Mo Sui was different now. Why should such a person show her husband's face? A female star who is about to die. Zhuang Ruyan lowered her voice. Nini puffed up her face, "I didn't ask you that. I mean that child, who is she?" Zhuang Ruyan turned her head and glanced at Anan. The clothes the little dumplings were wearing should have been prepared by the show team, matching Mo Sui, a water blue as clear as the sky. The two didn't seem to be well dressed, but they seemed to be radiating light. Weird, they look a bit alike. Whether it's eyebrows or demeanor. The program team really took great pains to find such a child for the sake of stunt. Ask you. Nini was about to freak out. Zhuang Ruyan looked calm and said contemptuously, "It's just an orphan." What did I hear? I saw that she was soft and weak, with no sense of existence, but I didn't expect to say such a thing, it's too disgusting. I'm so angry, Mo Su-chang, someone is going to bully your cub. Zhang Lin and Qin Feng arranged this party just for the camera. Both of them are singers, and they share the same manager. The manager will be heartbroken. Because of Mo Sui's participation, this show has attracted more and more people's attention. I thought the two of them would catch the leak this time, but who knows, the live broadcast has already been carried out to the second day, and there are still only a few thousand viewers in their live broadcast room. The agent said that their live broadcast room lacked gimmicks and had to create some topics. The couple is ready to create a topic. When Zhang Lin heard what Zhuang Ruyan said, she wanted to give Mo Sui a small report first. However, Mo Sui suddenly said that he would go home to get something, and he would come back in a while. Zhang Lin's words were kept in her throat, and when she regained her senses, she saw a gentle smile suddenly appeared on Zhuang Ruyan's face. "Is this Anan? You are so cute." Anan took a small step back. She had just heard the grown-up say that he was an orphan and was not friendly. "My name is Zhuang Ruyan, you can call me Sister Yunyin," she said again. Anan pursed her lips and said nothing. She felt as if she had seen this person somewhere. "You're so afraid of life." Zhuang Ruyan smiled, "Children have to be more lively to look like children." After a pause, she added, "Other children are very polite, Anne learns like them." She didn't like the kid at heart. "What is this little guy? Why do you take the business card when your husband is humbly half-hunched?" Perhaps in the eyes of onlookers, this was a loving interaction, but Zhuang Ruyan felt ashamed. She couldn't do anything about Mo Sui, but she was able to cure the 4-year-old child. Children from orphanages are born with low self-esteem. After being criticized by adults, they may immediately cry. Even the audience who likes children will not like a crying child. Sister just told you that you have to change your temper. Because no one likes a child like you. Zhuang Ruyan said again in a tone that only Anan could hear. Sure enough, listening to Zhuang Ruyan's words, Anan's eyes turned red. The little dumpling's little hand pulled the corner of his clothes crampedly, as if he had done something wrong, and shrank aside. The staff of the show team said that no matter what she did wrong, she would not be thrown away. But the aunt in the canteen of the orphanage said that the children on the show had to behave well. Anan likes an intern mother, and she doesn't want to leave so soon. The child's white ears turned red. The corners of her mouth were flattened, as if she was about to cry. Only then did Zhuang Ruyan stand up and said in a panic, "I'm sorry, I just chatted with her and she cried." "It's the first time the child is in an unfamiliar place, are you afraid?" Jiang Jinming smiled and hugged his wife's waist. "How can I blame you? This child is too afraid of giving birth. It seems that everyone thinks that Anan is wrong. Even she herself thinks so." Looking at the big smiling faces of Lily and Nini, Anan lowered her eyes again, looking alone, like the only little scarecrow in the field. "This child is really too fragile, he will cry after saying a few words, glass heart? A child with such a sensitive temperament should be difficult to get along with, upstairs, isn't it? This is a glass heart? Can you be more lenient with children?" Anan wanted to cry, but bit her lip to hold back her tears and didn't dare to cause trouble for the adults. "Didn't you see it? Everyone used to be children. If you have such a life experience, can you guarantee that you are stronger than Anan?" Just when there was a lot of discussion in the barrage area, Mo Sui came back. The audience guessed that with Mo Sui's character, they would definitely dislike An's appearance of crying or not. After all, she doesn't look like she can coax children. For a while, everyone was sweating for the little dumpling. "What's wrong?" Mo Sui asked when she saw An's pitiful appearance. Jiang Jinming immediately helped his wife to explain. For fear that he could not explain clearly, he spoke very fast, and there was a lot of nonsense. Zhuang Ruyan said confidently, "I asked the child to greet me and call me sister, but she didn't dare, and hid in fear. I didn't know this child was so timid, I'm sorry." Mo Sui looked at Anan again. Anan's face was drooping, and her little hands didn't know where to put them. "You don't need to criticize the child, she just has a bad personality, not intentional," Zhuang Ruyan said with understanding. But who knows, before she finished speaking, she saw Mo Sui showing an inexplicable expression. "Why criticize?" Zhuang Ruyan was taken aback. "Say hello to Auntie," Mo Sui said. "Hello, Auntie." The little dumpling wiped the corners of his eyes with his hands and said in a milky voice. The smile on Zhuang Ruyan's lips froze. The air seemed to freeze suddenly. "The child's character is very good, at least I don't see any problems," Mo Sui said coldly. Zhang Lin nodded vigorously. "It's just that I couldn't call out my sister to you, I was scared to cry by you." Zhuang Ruyan's face turned red with a swoosh. "I don't know much about the child's situation, I misunderstood. Just an amateur guest, how could Mo Sui, who has always been indifferent, be willing to stand up for her? What's the misunderstanding? It's not because no one loves or cares for the child, so I bully others," Zhang Lin muttered. Qin Feng tugged at the corner of her clothes and shook her head. Zhang Lin pursed her lips and held back her words. "It is said that one should be gentle, virtuous and indisputable in the world, and the character design cannot collapse. I thought what was wrong, it turned out to be forcing the child to call her sister, forcing the child to cry. The child is sincere, whether it is a sister or an aunt, you can tell at a glance. Xiao Budian's character is very good, what's not polite?" Mo Sui supported the cub, "It's great. Why do you think Zhuang Ruyan has so many hearts? It's a perfect match for her husband." Zhuang Ruyan's face flushed, and she sat down to eat as if nothing had happened. Mo Sui handed Anan the children's water bottle he brought home. Anan held the small kettle, opened the lid, and Gudong took a gulp of water. After drinking enough water, she gently wiped the corner of her mouth with the back of her hand and glanced at the intern mother quietly. The intern mother said just now that An's character is very good. The little dumpling blushed shyly, but satisfied. I saw just now that Lily and the little nouveau riche are carrying their own water glasses and can drink water at any time. Mo Sui also noticed it, so did he go home and get it for the child? Although she doesn't talk much and doesn't know how to kiss and hug cubs, in fact, her silent concern is also very warm. Zhang Lin prepared a table of home-cooked dishes and gave everyone a bowl of rice. It's just that when the rice bowl was brought to Mo Sui, she suddenly remembered something. "Ah, Sister Mo Sui, don't you eat rice?" When the words fell, she ran back to the kitchen again, took out a plate of vegetable salad, and ran back lightly. Qin Feng said, "Xiaolin has a very careful heart and always considers everyone's needs." Mo Sui could see that this was a scene Zhang Lin added for herself. Zhuang Ruyan paused after taking 2 bites of rice, and said to Zhang Lin, "Can I trouble you to give me a salad too?" She is also an actress. Although she is fuzzy, she also needs to maintain her figure and be ready to join the group at any time. There are no more vegetables. Zhang Lin showed a regretful expression, "But you have already eaten your meal, and you don't want it now. Who should you let it eat? Too wasteful." Zhuang Ruyan immediately glanced at Zhang Jinming. Zhang Jinming said, "I also have a big bowl of rice here, which is enough to eat." "Ruyan, it's fine to eat a bowl of rice occasionally. The big deal is to go home and exercise for 2 hours. Don't worry about it, relax today." Zhuang Ruyan hurriedly kicked him under the table. "So is the diet of female stars so strict? With such half a bowl of rice, my 6-year-old girl can't even eat so much. She actually has to go back to exercise for 2 hours to consume it." I am a fan of Zhuang Ruyan, and I followed her Xiaomishu account before. She said that she had a physique that did not gain weight since she was a child, and harvested a bunch of lemons. Everyone also said that she was born beautiful. So who ate the food pictures she posted on her account Po in the end? What a liar! SRDS, Zhuang Ruyan still has fans? Can the show crew let this liar go offline? It looks so annoying, and bullies the cubs. The apartment rented by the show crew is really not big. In order to create a warm and happy atmosphere for a family of 3 during meals, even the dining table at home is too small to squeeze too hard, barely able to squeeze 4 or 5 people. Fortunately, Zhang Lin had already prepared a plate for each of the children, filled the dishes, and brought them to the children's room for them to eat. As soon as Lily entered the room, he immediately greeted his friends to sit down like a little master. In front of the small table, 3 children were sitting, holding children's chopsticks in one hand and a small spoon in the other, and a glass of Wangzai's milk was placed in front of them. Wangzai's milk is a drink, and children usually drink less. At this moment, 3 pairs of eyes are staring at the package, gurgling saliva. "I'll open it." Li Li tore open the straw bag and opened it for the 2 little guests. The door to the children's room was closed immediately, and the 3 children drank all the drinks without taking care of their meals. "Ha ha ha, Lily and Nini are still wearing red, they look too much like a New Year's Eve village stuttering feast. Are you afraid that the drink will be confiscated by adults?" I drank it all in one breath. It was cured when the children were together, and the 3 human cubs were huddled together, so cute. However, wasn't that Nini very bearish just now? I don't know if there are no adults here now, will she bully Anan? But obviously, everyone is overthinking it. At least before eating well, Nini didn't have time to trouble anyone. After the 3 children finished their drinks, they started their own activities, and there was only the sound of chewing and swallowing in the room. Only then did the audience know that it turned out that the small groups didn't chat at all when they eat. As for dinner, that was a long time away. Nini touched her round belly and looked at Anan, who was sitting across from her. Anan noticed the gaze, raised her little face, and a naive smile piled up on her fleshy face. Nini's little hand was still on her stomach. If you don't reach out and don't hit the smiling face, it's very difficult to do. Nini is a spoiled little princess. In front of other children, she can't help but want to bully people. But now she doesn't want to bully Anan. Because this little kid is smiling and kind of cute. Let's be good friends. Li said enthusiastically. Anan nodded immediately, she likes to make friends the most. Nini held her cheeks in her little hands, showing a puzzled look. She has no friends. Usually at home, only the nanny and Uncle Gardner play with her. How to make friends? She asked. We can chat. Lily smiled like a little son. So the children who finished the meal began to speak enthusiastically. What is an orphan? Nini asked suddenly. Mom, why do you ask this? The bear child is really a bear child, so it can't make people worry for too long. But I don't think she did it on purpose, she just asked casually. What do children know? Maybe she really didn't know what an orphan was. I heard that you are an orphan, what is an orphan? Nini asked again. The audience in the barrage area couldn't wait to reach out and cover Nini's mouth. How can you sprinkle salt on an ant's wound? It's not easy being a small group. There were significantly fewer barrages in the live broadcast room. It wasn't that the audience left, but that everyone couldn't bear to look at Anan sadly. However, just when everyone thought that Anan would show an embarrassed expression or drop a golden bean, the little dumpling's performance was beyond their expectations. An orphan is a child without parents. A soft and waxy voice sounded, and Anan looked directly at Nini and explained sincerely. Then you don't have your parents to take care of you? Nini asked curiously. Anan shook his head. The hearts of the audience in the live broadcast room hung in their throats again. It's over, will Nini laugh at her? But who knows, the next moment, Nini looks envious. It's great, then you can watch cartoons all the time, and you won't be afraid that your parents will turn off the TV. You can always eat snacks without worrying about tooth decay. Don't sleep if you don't want to sleep, don't eat if you don't want to eat. Nini's biggest wish is not to eat or sleep. Now, new friends can actually do that. She wanted so badly to be an orphan. The audience in the live broadcast room couldn't help crying and laughing, and the hearts hanging in their throats finally fell back. Children's words have no taboo. Are her parents in the live broadcast room? The rattan is ready, and the child will start playing as soon as he gets home. The atmosphere in the live broadcast room was very happy. Li listened to what Nini said, and looked at An's eyes like a boss. Now it was An's turn to open her eyes. When he came back to his senses, the little dumpling showed a subtle expression. It's like looking at two little fools. The orphan is the one who has an accident with his parents and can't be by his side, and having said that, Anan lowered his head and said with difficulty, it's still a lost child. It's not good at all to have no parents, so there is no one to protect the children. Anan is very expressive. When she lowered her eyes, her long eyelashes were wet, and she didn't know if she was crying. Every orphan wants to have a home. Anan said in a milky voice, completely burying her little head low. A 4-year-old child is the age of crying and making trouble, but Anan doesn't like to cry. She is the toughest kid ever. Can't be sad anymore. She also has a home now. A 15-day home. Thinking about this, Anan raised her head again, but suddenly, her little shoulder was slapped heavily. Nini put her arm on her shoulder and put the other hand on her hip, and said honestly, I'll protect you in the future. At the end of the meal, the atmosphere was quite harmonious. Zhang Lin found that Mo Sui ignored the courtship of Zhang Jinming and Zhuang Ruyan, but was not proud of herself at all. Of course, she also knows the proportions herself. She doesn't bring up any sensitive topics, and only talks about the topics in the program group's task card. Zhuang Ruyan became a transparent person, she didn't even say a word to them, the more she thought about it, the more unconvinced she became. It just so happened that Qin Feng took the wine and poured everyone a glass. Zhuang Ruyan's alcohol intake is not good, so after half a glass of wine, she is not so honest. When she came to eat this meal, she held her breath. The more frustrated you are, the more you want to fight back. Suddenly, she remembered the gossip her mother had heard. I heard that Mo Sui has not exposed his love life because it is not visible. It's been 2 days since the show started, and I haven't seen my brother-in-law yet. Sister Mo Sui, I heard that my brother-in-law is Wu Bingwang of Dingwang Building Materials. Is it really Dong Wu? The audience in the barrage area immediately became excited. Mo Sui has been married for more than a year, and no one knows who her husband is. After all, Zhuang Ruyan is an insider, so maybe she really knows something. Soon, netizens found Wu Dong's photos. At this moment, everyone was disillusioned. This half-old man with a round head and a chubby belly is with Mo Sui? Although among middle-aged people, his appearance is not a hindrance, but totally inappropriate. Those who are interested in digging deeper and deeper, even found photos of Wu Dong's wife and children. The happy family portrait of a family of 4 is the envy of others. Could it be that Mo Sui is a third party who destroys other people's families? The bullet screen area exploded, and the marketing account of the squatting point has even begun to edit eye-catching subtitles, ready to send this big melon directly. But Mo Sui didn't admit it, just glanced at Zhuang Ruyan with the eyes of an idiot. Zhuang Ruyan said innocently, "Should I not have told this? Sorry, I thought it was just a casual gathering of friends, so I didn't take care of myself." Sister Mo Sui, don't you blame me? Who are you friends with? Zhuang Ruyan's face turned pale. But the words were spoken, and there was nothing to hide. If Mo Sui's husband can see the light, why is he not willing to introduce him to everyone? I am afraid that even if he participated in the show this time, Mo Sui did not intend to let him appear. 15 days of recording, dragging and dragging, isn't it over? It's almost time, why don't we? Zhang Jinming wanted to pull Zhuang Ruyan home. But Zhuang Ruyan shook off his hand and said unhappily, "I'm telling the truth, what are you afraid of?" She stood up and turned to leave when Mo Sui's cell phone on the dining table rang. What popped up was a video call request. With sharp eyes, Zhuang Ruyan immediately saw Mo Sui unlock the screen, and asked for the other party's name on the call. Dingwang Building Materials. Looking at the portrait of the middle-aged and elderly, it is estimated that it is Wu Bingwang. Big old one. The alcohol made Zhuang Ruyan's brain rumbling. There was a flash of pleasure in her eyes, but she still pretended to be wronged and said, "Look, Dong Dong from Dingwang Building Materials has made a video call to her." Everyone present was petrified. It's embarrassing. The bell rang again and again, and there was no time to stop. In the barrage area, there were shouts of scolding. Some people say that Mo Sui is not a good bird at first sight, some people complain about Wu Bingguang's original wife and children, and some people initiate boycotts and swipe the barrage of Mo Sui get out of the entertainment circle. At such a tense moment, Mo Sui glanced at Zhuang Ruyan again with the expression of seeing a joke, and then tapped the accept button on the screen with her slender fingers. "Sui Sui, your aunt asked me yesterday to ask what shade of lipstick you put on in the interview for the charity event some time ago. I forgot. I really can't stand her. I have urged her several times. Now that we are walking outside, she is urging me to call you quickly." On the screen, is Wu Bingguang's big and kind face. But soon, his big face was pushed away, and his elegant and calm wife came over. "Sui Sui, you judge your aunt, isn't your uncle too careless about me?" At this moment, Zhuang Ruyan's face suddenly turned ashen. The barrage area is more lively. Oh, it seems that this little paste coffee will be offline soon. Now the popularity of the show is getting bigger and bigger, it is estimated that the next guest to be replaced must be a little famous. Wu Bingwang and his wife were walking, and the mobile phone camera directly slapped their faces, without any burden. The couple knew that their niece was recording a variety show, but they didn't know that the show was filmed live. They thought that Mo Sui would be able to receive the video at the moment. For a while, I asked Mo Sui what color lipstick was on the last show, and then I wanted to know if her skirt was a new season. The two of them would quarrel with each other from time to time, but they spread dog food all over the screen. The audience in the district kept saying that this middle-aged and elderly dog food is actually delicious. Knowing that his nephew was cold, Wu Bingwang didn't care when he saw that she didn't speak much. After clearing his throat, he was ready to reopen the old topic. Sui Sui, it's been a long time since the two of you have gone home for dinner together. The couple uncle. Mo Sui interrupted him, and the camera turned slightly to reveal a few unfamiliar faces. Wu Bingguang's eyes widened, and he immediately swallowed back what he had not finished. Auntie, the makeup artist gave me the lipstick last time. I don't know what shade it is. I'll ask you later, and someone will send it to you tomorrow. Zhao Yanqin hurriedly said, Okay, Sushui, you'll be busy first. After hanging up the video call, the couple looked at each other. When did their niece make so many friends who can eat at the same table? The old couple showed a gratified smile, their legs and feet were strong, and they changed from walking to fast racing. On the other side, after hanging up the phone, Mo Sui looked at Zhuang Ruyan calmly. Zhang Lin and Qin Feng's eyes were also full of contempt. The two of them are also good at rubbing the heat, but they have never done such a shameless thing. How can you be so resistant to pouring dirty water on the queen in front of the camera? Misunderstanding, it's just a misunderstanding. Zhang Jinming broke the silence and said embarrassedly, Ruyan is ignorant, don't bother with her. You're in your 20s, still ignorant. Zhang Lin gave her a sideways glance. Zhuang Ruyan froze in place. How could it be? This gossip was said by her mother, who is an artist assistant, so it can't go wrong. Ruyan, hurry up and apologize to Miss Mo. Zhang Jinming was sweating coldly as he tugged at his wife's sleeve. But Zhuang Ruyan looked stupid, staring at Mo Sui, her eyes full of disbelief. The audience in the live broadcast room were also stunned by this dramatic scene. Dingwang Building Materials is a well-known company. Many people have heard of this company, but they never knew that it was opened by her uncle Mo Sui. So, Mo Sui not only has a good career, but also his family background should not be underestimated. Mother Zhang, Dad Qin, we're full. Lily pushed open the door and came out, followed by two little tails. It can be seen that the three little guys get along well, at least when they come out, they are all smiling, neither crying nor making trouble, even Nini is very well behaved. The arrival of the child eased the stiff situation. Zhuang Ruyan breathed a sigh of relief and tried to muddle through. She pulled Nini to her side, pinched her little face and said softly, what was Nini playing with the children in there just now? Chat. Nini and the intern mother were not so familiar yet, so she leaned back forcefully to avoid her pinching, so tired that her little neck was about to cramp. What are you talking about? Zhuang Ruyan pretended to be interested. The guests are all grown-ups, and they all know the truth of staying on the line, so they don't bother about Zhuang Ruyan smearing Mo Sui. After all, so many viewers are watching, presumably after the show, she will not be much better. Talk about an being an orphan. Nini turned her head and put her hand on An's shoulder, like a loyal little chivalrous girl, we made an appointment, and I will cover her in the future. An looked up at Nini with adoration on her milky little face. Zhuang Ruyan's face turned pale, trying to change the subject, by the way, but Zhang Lin raised her brows, little one, how do you know about the orphan? Zhuang Ruyan looked out the door and said anxiously, has the strawberry cake arrived yet? Nini didn't even think about it, she poked Zhuang Ruyan's nose with her little finger, she told me. Zhuang Ruyan's face was ashen. Nini hooked An's shoulders even tighter, and said angrily, I look down on my friend, but I just look down on me. I want my dad to replace you. Drive away. Everyone present widened their eyes. Ha 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 ha, the actress probably thought in her heart, this baby is on the road, so I don't have to put pressure on the show team. Zhuang Ruyan is so vicious, she was confused by her appearance before, these two should get off the assembly line quickly. Our little sisters of Anan and Nini are a little bit more affectionate. I announced that Zhuang Ruyan and Zhang Jinming should get out of the show, but Nini's little girl must stay. Who called Nini Bear and Nouveau Riche just now? Slapped in the face. Slap in the face. Really fragrant. Zhuang Ruyan had no face to face the crowd anymore, so she pretended to be drunk and went home. The strawberry cake still arrived, but because it was too late, Zhang Lin cut it open and let everyone take it back. When returning home, Anan held a small paper plate in both hands, and her eyes seemed to grow on a cake. Anan, come to play next time. Zhang Lin and Qin Feng stood by the door smiling and said in unison. Anan agreed softly and walked out holding her cake. It's the other way around. Mo Sui shouted. Seeing that the little dumpling didn't hear her at all, she wanted to pull her arm, but she withdrew her hand and slipped the small kettle's strap. It's over there. Anan only recovered her senses, her face blushed. Little ears ran away from home. Well-meaning uncles and aunts will donate picture books to the orphanage. She learned this sentence from picture books. One big and one small come home. When the trainee mother turned on the light, the little dumpling hurried to the table and put down the cake. She accidentally touched the cream on the edge of the paper plate with her little hand, and she was reluctant to wash it off, so she carefully licked it. So sweet! Can I eat it? Anan's almond eyes were round and big, looking at Mo Sui cautiously. Okay, wash your hands first. Mo Sui said. Anan was immediately overjoyed, and ran to wash her hands da-da-da. Looking at her brisk back, Mo Sui didn't notice it, and the corners of his lips twitched unconsciously. The little dumpling came out after washing his hands, and wanted to take Mo Sui to eat the cake. But before her little hand touched the intern mother's hand, she was dodged indiscriminately. Mo Sui stroked his long wavy hair with his hand and coughed softly, come and eat. The little dumpling didn't notice anything, and hopped to the dining table and climbed into the children's chair. She picked up the spoon in her little hand, looked curiously at the wall clock, and then at the camera in the corner. Anan is very smart and knows that the live broadcast closes after 8:30. However, the hands on the clock were long and short, and she couldn't read them. Following her gaze, Mo Sui glanced at the time. It's only 8 o'clock, she explained, but tonight's show focuses on the next door, so our live broadcast here is not on. Anan nodded understandingly. No, the camera is on, we are here. After the movie, stay awake, how could the program team miss any topic? You must take pictures of your daily life after you go home. Can you see the undefended side of the queen? Naran and Cub, she seems to be a little more lively than when she first came, the audience in the live broadcast room screamed, but Anan and Mo Sui who were in front of the cake had no idea about it. Mo Sui is watching the child eat the cake. Creamy cake with half and half of fresh strawberries embedded on top, and the small dumpling spooned a small sip and sent it to the mouth. The mellow and rich taste fills the mouth, followed by the slight bite of the millet's teeth, and the sweet and sweet taste of strawberry bursts out again. The taste is layer by layer, and the little dumplings are too busy to sigh, and they are too busy to stop their mouths. But eat and eat, still have to share. There were 2 small pieces of cut cake in the small paper plate, and Anan ate her own piece and put down the spoon obediently. Auntie eat. She said softly. The 2 good friends I met just now would call their mothers on the show, such as Mama Zhang and Mama Chuang, but Anan didn't dare to call them that. I don't eat it. Mo Sui raised her delicate eyebrows slightly. When Anan heard the words, her big watery eyes grew on the cake again. She originally planned to let Anan finish the cake, but then she thought, isn't it bad for the child to eat so many desserts before going to bed? You can't eat any more, you go wash your face first, and I'll help you later. Mo Sui hesitated. Anan can take a bath by herself, said the little dumpling. This is easy to do. Mo Sui brought a change of clothes for the child, went back to clear the dining table, picked up the small paper plate in one hand, and walked to the trash can in the kitchen. Just suddenly, her eyes paused. She never cared about what she had 3 meals a day. Satisfying a temporary appetite will make you fat, and your skin will also accelerate aging due to excessive sugar intake. But looking at the cake at this time, she was a little moved. Anan eats too deliciously. That contented look, as if there is no trouble in the world. Does Mo Sui want to eat it? Of course not. She is so strict with her diet, how could she eat more of this calorie bomb at 8 o'clock in the evening? It's impossible even in the morning. I watched the vlog made for her by the actress team last year. Her recipe is so terrible. As a fan, I still feel sorry for her. Self-discipline is like this, there should be no fun in life. Upstairs, look at the bank card balance, feel sorry for yourself. Mo Sui stared at the cake for a long time. There seemed to be a little person growing on the cream, waving to her. Eat, eat, just one bite. Life is hard enough. Mo Sui frowned slightly. Why do I think she really wants to eat? Her tangled expression is completely different from her usual coldness, just like me every time I fail to lose weight. Mo Sui is a little cute. Eat, take the spoon. Thanks to the show team for not turning off the camera, this scene of stealing is absolutely amazing. Sure enough, Mo Sui took the spoon. Facing the cake, she turned her heart away and dug a spoonful as if she was dying. After taking a bite, she was stunned, her eyebrows slowly stretched. Anan, who came out of the bathroom with a small toothbrush, took a mouthful of foam and blinked forcefully. At exactly 8:30, the live broadcast room popped and was about to close. The audience holding their phones fell into contemplation. When I return to the live broadcast room tomorrow morning, will I see Mo Sui's death after learning the truth? Also, I wonder if Zhuang Ruyan is really going to be kicked out of the show by Nini. The variety show Intern Parents has only been aired in 2 days. In the past 2 days, the popularity of variety shows has been getting higher and higher, and the marketing account will often send some small clips out of the circle as famous scenes, attracting more attention from netizens. The clips about the children are all warm and lovely. When it comes to the adults, there is no trace of the script. Even if the young couple Zhonglin and Qin Feng are a bit pretentious sometimes, it is harmless. But these small clips all add up, and Mo Sui didn't have a high number of likes and retweets for stealing cakes in the kitchen alone. In the video, the actress digs the cake with a small spoon. At first, she just tried it cautiously, but when she took a bite of the cake, her eyes seemed to light up suddenly, with a surprised expression on her face. Whether it is a passerby, Kuriko, or her fans, they have never seen her showing such a relaxed side. No, maybe there is. It has been 10 years since Mo Sui debuted, and many years ago, she was presumptuous and childish. It's just that over the years, she seems to have suddenly changed her personality. Careful fans find past photos and put them on the official blog of the support club. Mo Sui's expression was much more relaxed before, and it can be seen from the photos that she is also more relaxed when getting along with people. However, in my impression, she seems to be not very down-to-earth, and her character is cold and indifferent. The coldness returns to the coldness. I was not tense before, but I seem to be much happier than now. Have you noticed that Mo Sui didn't smile too much in the photos over the past 4 years? Shouldn't something have happened over the years? Everyone was talking about it, but still nothing was discussed. In the past 4 years, I haven't heard of any changes in Mo Sui's family. Even at the age of 26, she was married, which was a big happy event. The audience squatted in the live broadcast room. At 8:30 in the morning, the dark live broadcast room gradually became brighter. The next moment, an enlarged face appeared on the screen of the mobile phone, and the snow-white skin seemed to greet the audience again. The big and round almond eyes blinked 3 times, and finally stepped back, and the delicate and beautiful face came into the audience's eyes. The little dumpling looked puzzled, and his little hands fiddled in front of the camera lens, blocking everyone's sight from time to time, but no one blamed him. In the barrage area, everyone is saying good morning to each other, and they can feel warm across the screen. There was a sound of footsteps. Anand turned back and said softly, "Auntie, this shot, what's wrong?" "The camera is on now, and it was on yesterday," Anand said. Mo Sui walked to the camera. The faces of one big and one small are getting closer and closer, and the audience is satisfied. As expected of an actress who has been admitted by the big director to have no dead ends, the camera face is so beautiful. I feel that Mo Sui's condition is much better than before, and he is not swollen in the morning, nor is he as lackluster as before. Could it be that because Anand came, she slept better than before? Although the cub is cute, it is not a panacea, the upstairs is exaggerated. "You said yesterday." Mo Sui's face was enlarged and enlarged, his eyes widened, and he tried his best to remain calm. Anand explained solemnly. "The camera emits a faint light when it's on, and the trainee mom didn't notice it yesterday, but she observed it." At this time, someone rang the doorbell. Mo Sui asked Anand to wait for a while, and then went to open the door first. As soon as the door opened, the agent Wu's sister, who was standing outside, changed her usual worried expression and smiled. She glanced inside, nodded to Anand who was looking at her curiously, then pulled Mo Sui to her side and whispered in her ear. "Your performance yesterday was really good, you topped the trending search list, and Weibo gained a lot of fans that night. It doesn't matter if you eat cake once in a while, fans think you are cute, passers-by have a deeper impression of you, just even the sunspots can't fault it. What's wrong with Heezy? Could it be that Mo Sui stole the cake and didn't have any self-discipline? If they say that, I'll take you out and let them see, this figure tisk tisk, what's wrong with eating a piece of cake? That's how capricious." Mo Sui listened to what Sister Wu said, and the expression on her face changed in an instant. From shock to shame, and finally accepting reality resignedly, back to expressionless. Even though her fleeting and restless expression was quickly replaced by an indifferent expression, Sister Wu was still stunned for a moment. "I haven't seen Mo Sui like this for a long time. A person who pushes himself to the extreme can have such a change, why?" Subconsciously, she looked at Anand. "It seems that the small group has helped a lot. Your name is Anand, right? It's the first time we met, and this is a gift for you." Sister Wu walked into the house with the bag she had prepared. Anand narrowed her eyes. "Wow, first time receiving a present." After Anand said thank you, she asked Aunt Wu to help open the toy. It's a small pink box that contains a Barbie doll, along with gadgets such as earrings, clothing, and a hairdryer. It is a toy for dressing up Barbie dolls. When Sister Wu bought it, she guessed that the little girl would like it, but what she did not expect was that Anand who received the toy would be so flattered. These days, children's toys in most families are too piled up in the house, and may not even be treasured. But Anand only has this one toy. As if holding a baby, she gently combed the hair of the Barbie doll, and the movements of her little hands were very light, for fear of damaging the doll. The child's expression was so focused that she didn't even notice that the trainee mother was dressed and ready to go out. "I've never brought such a small child, is there anything I should pay attention to?" Sister Wu asked. Mo Sui looked back. The morning sun was not too hot, and the little dumpling was sitting by the floor-to-ceiling window, playing with her new toy seriously. Her cheeks were pink, and the corners of her mouth were not consciously raised, so she was very well behaved. "There's nothing to pay attention to, just make her something to eat." Mo Sui said here, paused, and then said, "She's very good." "Where is Mo Sui going? Do you go to work?" "I want to go out, I specially asked an agent to help take care of the children, so considerate." Moreover, when she said that the cub was so good, it was like praising her own baby. Yet, she didn't directly throw the child to other people's house next door, it's too responsible. In the audience's discussion, Mo Sui hurried out. Sister Wu stayed at home for 2 hours and found that Mo Sui was right. This kid is really reassuring. A small toy can keep her quiet for so long, and she can show a satisfied smile while playing, which is so healing. At 11 o'clock, Sister Wu closed her laptop and prepared to cook for the children. But before she got to the kitchen, she heard a knock on the door. As soon as the door opened, there was no one there. Sister Wu looked into the distance again, but she didn't even see a single person. Until an angry voice came from below, "I'm here." Sister Wu looked down and was startled by the little guy. It was Nini. She had watched the live broadcast a few times and was deeply impressed by this child. Nini. Hearing the familiar voice, Anan raised her head, saw Nini at a glance, and ran over immediately. Nini is rude in front of adults, and can't be said to be likable, but when she arrives in front of Anan, she immediately becomes good-natured. "Nini, why are you here? My trainee parents were kicked out, and soon a new family will be here to replace us." Anan caught the loss in Nini's eyes, blinked, and said, "Who drove them away?" "It's me." Nini sighed. Anan was even more confused and scratched his head. It's fine for Nini to drive those two adults away, why did she drive herself away by the way? Nini quickly cheered up, "When the time comes, I'll ask Uncle Gardner to give me his cell phone and watch you on it every day." But children can't play with their mobile phones for too long, their eyes will not be able to see clearly. Anan explained anxiously. Nini tilted her head, "If you don't play mobile phones at home, you will be bored every day." Sister Wu asked, "What about your parents? Dad wants to earn money and drink, and Mom has to make money with Dad and do beauty treatments. They don't have time to talk to me." The audience in the live broadcast room was silent. This program is called Intern Parents. If parents need to take exams, how many adults can get high scores like children? Take Nini's parents, for example. Being busy at work is not an excuse to leave their children to the nannies and gardeners. Can't they even find time? Just looking at the child's sad expression, you can see that she needs company very much. As the sponsor of this show, Nini's parents should be sent to the show for transformation. In this kind of thinking, many viewers went directly to the official blog of the program group to leave a message. They're going to make suggestions for the team to put the show's true intentions into action. Nini's parents didn't come to pick her up, it was the driver's uncle who came. The child has long been used to it, swaggering into the car, raising his head, and waving to Anan by the window, showing a dashing smile. The audience never imagined that they would be so reluctant and worried when their least favorite bear child was leaving the show. But fortunately, the Conscience program team quickly received feedback from everyone and quickly posted a top statement on the official blog. First, the program team has contacted Nini's parents, hoping that they can put down their work and spend more time with their children, and the other party has begun to reflect on themselves. Second, the program team officials announced 3 new groups of guests. The 3 groups of guests who joined are all well known, but what interests everyone the most is a pair of real mother and daughter. One of them is Ruan Qing, an actor who debuted around the same time as Mo Sui, and the other is a famous internet celebrity Kikai. Ruan Qing was not popular in the past, but since her daughter Kikai accidentally became famous on short video software, she also got a lot of job opportunities. I heard that Mo Sui and Ruan Qing were both from the academic class before, and they were still classmates. I don't know if they are friends. One pair is a real mother and a daughter, and the other is a fake mother and daughter. In addition, Ruan Qing has been gaining momentum recently, and Mo Sui's fans are really worried that the actress will be out of the limelight. On the other side, Mo Sui got out of the car. Her long wavy hair has been tied into a lazy and casual low ponytail. She put her sunglasses on the bridge of her nose with one hand, and then buckled a hat on her head and lowered the brim of her hat. Today is review day. She has been undergoing psychotherapy for up to a year and her condition has not improved. But for some reason, This time, Mo Sui always felt that the situation would be different.